All right, here we go. OverDrive, off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app, your home smart speaker. Bryan Hayes, Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Frankie Corrado in here. How we doing? How's everyone feeling this afternoon?
I'd just like to ask you, Hazy B, you were on such a high yesterday. You were emotionally invested in the week.
Mm-hmm.
So you talked about Jay spring training, big week for the Maple Leafs, Boston twice. You were jacked up. You yesterday were all in.
Oh, man.
Where are you today?
Where am I today? I'm still ill.
Because you got to admit, you were fired up yesterday, man. You were jacked up. You were pumping everything's tires. You were talking about line combinations, deep pairings, how they look, the mojo. And today, you look like you just walked off 18 at Coppenwood after that episode you had there.
I wish I did. I mean, the weather, again, beautiful outside today. Beautiful outside. We'll get to that. I think...
If you were a 10 yesterday, what are you today?
I'm still a 10 in terms of excitement. I love this week. I find this week thoroughly entertaining. Last night, obviously, didn't go the Maple Leafs way. That's going to happen sometimes. We have a lot of time to break that down. They've got a game tomorrow against Buffalo, in Boston on Thursday. You got hockey night Saturday in Montreal. It doesn't get much better than that. The deadline on Friday. There's rumors all over the place. The Raptors are trying to survive without Scotty Barnes. The Blue Jays are trying to publicly put forth a face that everything's all good. There's a lot going on. Russell Wilson's being cut. Saquon Barkley is going to be a free agent. I like this time of year. So I'm still a 10 in terms of being all in on the excitement level. And I'm not going to fall into a trap, and I hope you're not suggesting I should. One game last night happens, and all of a sudden we're completely reversing our opinions on where we stand.
Oh, that's a lot of people do. They're like, last night.
I know that.
No, the week leading up, everything leading up to Twitter, or like everything leading up to last night, and it's mostly Twitter because that's where you can get a sense where people are at. They are chugging now. They're serious. After that game, these guys aren't serious.
I know.
Just because it was Boston.
Do you know how many of those I got?
Because
these guys aren't for real.
Because it was Boston and everything that goes with that. But I agree. It's like these guys just beat Vegas. They beat Colorado. They were on a 7-game heater. And now we're having a referendum on the Leafs, like just because they lost a game to Boston.
Right. You're going to lose games. It was triggering that it was 4-1 Bruins. I think there's some subliminal triggering there that bothers a lot of people. It was 4-1, and the Bruins found a way to hold on and actually win a game 4-1, which is very impressive. And the Bruins did exactly what they've been doing for years, where they spread the wealth. Pasternak is an absolute wizard on the ice. He's so good. He put on a clinic last night. The 4 goals they scored, two of them were the exact same, and the other 2 were the exact same. It was like 2 of them were basically on top of the crease. You know, the geeky goal really turned the game. I thought the Leafs had a really good start. I thought it was very similar, actually, to the Ranger game on Saturday, where I thought the Leafs were dominating the Rangers, and then the Rangers score, and it's like, is that going to kind of deflate the building? It didn't. The Leafs found a way to get back in that game, get back into it, and win. Last night was the opposite. I thought the Leafs had a really good 3 or 4 shifts to start the game. That Pasternak goes wizard, hits geeky backdoor. It's 1-0 Bruins. And then I thought the Bruins took over from there until it was 3-0, and then the Leafs got back into it. But you look at the goals, we're showing it up on TSN 4. That's what the Bruins are going to do. Zacha and DeBrusque come right down Broadway. Geeky and Zacha are backdoor in front of the net, battling for position. So it exposed what the Bruins do well. It exposed what the Leafs are concerned about, defensive breakdowns, being in your, being rough and tumble and find a way to push things to the outside. Like, that's what we witnessed last night.
What Keefe said, too. He's like, I loved our start to the hockey game. Excuse me. I don't know how long it was, 5 or 6 minutes, where you're like...
They were flying early.
Yeah,
they were flying.
It looked like it was going to be a 2-1 great game in the making, or 3-2. And for whatever reason, they got a power play, the Leafs did, and they just completely lost it on that power play. They lost momentum. And Boston's a good enough team, and they were desperate enough, and they want to turn things around a little bit here, where they said, we have to seize momentum of this hockey game, and we cannot give it back to them. And at the end of the day, you talk about difference maker. There was a bunch of guys on the ice making $11+ million last night, and only one of them showed up, and that was David Pasternak.
Pasternak, yeah.
Because all the guys I just mentioned have the capability to dominate a game and steal the show and be the complete story of the game. And he's the one. I didn't even notice Brad Marchand last night.
If you want to take a real takeaway from that game, those little defensive mistakes, those happen. It doesn't matter if it's Boston or anyone else, the Rangers, those are going to happen. The strengths of schedule in the season, you're going to catch teams, whatever. But the one constant for the Leafs is they don't have an answer for David Pastrnak. And right now, like, you watch this team play on the left side of the ice, who do they have on defense? They have Morgan Rielly, not exactly a defensive stalwart, Simone Benoit, and TJ Brody, who's playing his worst hockey in years. Where's your answer for David Pastrnak on that side of the ice? Because last time I checked, he's playing right wing, and he's having a field day on that one side of the ice. They don't really have an answer for that. That's my big takeaway of like a recurring theme when they play the Bruins.
Yeah, and I think we've seen that dating back to 3 or 4 years ago when they were in the playoffs and they had a stacked line when it was Bergeron and Marchand and even Pasta, but they would split that line up. Like, there would be times where Bruce Cassidy would actually split that line up and would push Pastrnak down and allow him to expose whoever he's going up against. And it's also technically, I guess he's on a second line. The Domi line got really caved in last night.
Not good in their own zone.
It's not good. I mean, and that's been well documented. Yeah. People are well aware that Max Domi he can be a liability defensively. Nylander can cheat and be a liability. Bertuzzi's not exactly Bob Gainey. Like, that is the concern, is that you're hoping for them to be able to outscore some of those deficiencies and basically bring an element of forecheck and pressure and intensity that can permeate the rest of the group to allow it to either balance out or possibly beat whoever you're playing against. But that's an interesting conversation that's not coming up, Frankie, is the left side of the defense is never talked about. It's always they got to find a way to play someone on the right side because and I would agree with that. Like, last night, I didn't love Brody. I thought Liljegren was probably the worst player on the ice.
Yeah.
And even if you look at Pastrnak last night, you're right. He's coming down the right side, but he sucks them in and actually makes his plays on the other side of the ice.
Yep. That was an everyone problem.
That was an everyone problem.
Yeah. That was an everyone problem. I do understand what you're saying, Frank. But that just goes to show you what's gone on over these years with the lack of attention to that D-core and thinking that you were a championship team. Because you guys have just basically pointed out in your statements regarding the D-core that it just doesn't stack up. Like, it's not even close when you're talking about, because you just basically went around everybody except Rielly and said, like, this, that
I think
needs
McCabe's been pretty good. I think McCabe
is playing. We're not going to sit here
the
today
right side.
and absolutely destroy the complete D-core.
Benoit's been a positive for this team, considering what he was in camp and the expectation.
But to talk about the D and just the left D-core, and then we just right after that went to the right side of the D-core, where it's like, if you really want to slot people properly, there needs to be, and if people are talking about getting one more D, you would probably need 2 more quality defensemen on that D-core if you want people slotted properly. But there's just no money for that, and it's impossible, so I'm not even going to go into it. And I've said it for years, you need 2 D-man, one that's better than Morgan Rielly, and one that's just under Morgan Rielly. That used to be TJ Brody, but he's way under Morgan Rielly right now. So that's where the D-core stands. So if they can add somebody, great, and that's what they got to run with.
And they will. I'd be shocked if by Friday at 3 p.m. they have not added another defenseman. Like, again, they went through the Lyubushkin trade, filtering him through other teams to shake off more cap space. Why would you do that if you're not going to use the cap space? It makes no sense. They showed us their hand. They are going to make moves. And it kind of gets back to our conversation yesterday, all in and all that kind of stuff, is that is a part of what I think is a reality here, is that it's just not feasible to expect a turnover to the extent where you're going to bring in multiple pieces where you feel great about this team. And I don't think that applies to any team.
But who are those pieces anyways?
But exactly.
It's just a lot of lateral moves. Look at the names that are out there. Is Matt Dumba coming in here being a savior for the team? No.
Absolutely
Zach Bogosian, they could have had him on waivers earlier on in the season. Or they could have traded a 7th like Minnesota did. Like, it's a lot of the same kind of guy. So where's your difference maker? How are you going to make that move happen? Like Jeff just said, like, how do you make a move like that happen? Because it just seems like they've been reluctant to make that big move on the blue line. Am I missing something?
No,
because
exactly.
I don't think that move's been made.
No.
Luke Shen doesn't qualify. That was a 3rd-round pick last year.
Don't say that to Hazy B. He loved that move.
I love
it's a great move,
and he played really well. But you're right.
It's a great move,
that was not at the time. And even, let's be clear, Luke gave them everything he could for about 8 weeks, 6 weeks. And that was going to be it. Like
Right.
Luke Shen is not. If he were to re-sign here, he'd still be likely a depth guy on the third line. He'd be playing, or on the third pairing, playing Lyubushkin type minutes. But really, the guy that defines the top four, the only one that we're aware of that's available is Noah Hannafin. But they're not going to go down that road. I don't think. I'm not sure Calgary would make that deal with the Leafs anyway. I think it sounds like there's a Brad Treliving tax. Also,
I don't even know if that even fits. Like another
exactly
left-handed
right.
D-man. It's like Noah Hannafin. You want to go to Tampa? Just go to Tampa. Like I don't even think he would fit, even if they said we'll give you a break on this one. Take this guy.
I agree.
It's like no thanks.
He's a rental, a pure rental.
Yes.
He plays on the left side, and he's got size, but he is not. He's more towards what Riley brings anyway, as opposed to what those other players you mentioned would bring in terms of their intangibles, in terms of their production. I think really the only answer might be is do whatever you can to get maybe one or two other guys who are as big as possible and try to simplify as much as possible. And I know that's not sexy, but it may literally be we're going to try to get two guys who are 6'3", 220 between now and Friday. They're both going to play. We're going to tell them to hit everybody in sight and block every shot they can and hope that's enough.
You know what's interesting? Like if you were to go back to the offseason and let's say you allocated a little more money to the back end instead of the Klingberg $4 million, and let's say you got two guys and you spent, $6 or $7 million. Don't you think you could hide that money a little bit better? Because at least a defenseman can give you 18 to 20 minutes and munch some minutes and be good defensively. He may not give you like the point production, but at least you can hide that money a little bit better. You spend bad money up front, it's like you're screwed, man, because if those guys don't score, you don't have it. And luckily for the Leafs, like Bertuzzi's been scoring now, Domi's been playing better, all that kind of stuff. But I kind of feel like now the philosophy should be if we have a little bit of extra money to spend, let's spend it on the back end because at least we can hide it and guys can munch some minutes for us.
I totally agree. I mean, it seems very clear. Like Joseph Woll wasn't great last night, but those are tough goals. I mean, again, the shots down Broadway, Zaka puts it under the bar. Geeky's right on top of him in the crease. Those are tough goals, and I liked what I've seen out of him this year. The Ilya Samsonov story has been Shakespearean, really. I mean, when you consider the way he started, where he had to go, being placed on waivers, and now he's back. He's reliable. He's looked very good. They're not addressing the goaltending position. Up front, they've done the heavy lifting. They may try to find a depth piece. The discussion on what they're going to do with Domi and up the middle of the ice, that is something that is going to be had between now and game one and likely throughout the playoffs. And that's why Sheldon Keefe is here and is making the money he's making. He's got to figure out what combinations they're going to be. But I think it's been clear for most people, which again speaks to the excitement of the possibilities this week and will likely carry over to July, undoubtedly, is the defense is what is going to have to be addressed. Like Brad Treliving did not get a great opportunity to do it last year. To your point, he probably didn't allocate the money properly. But this year, like Brody's coming off, Giordano's coming off. They're not committed to Liljegren, McCabe long term. Basically Morgan Riley, and they can figure out what else they want to do.
Yeah.
Like there legitimately could be 5 new defensemen on this team.
Yeah, they could
start next year.
They could reconfigure exactly how that decor looks, and you're going to be it's going to be at the expense of whoever's available, right? Like you're going to have to compete with other teams, all that kind of stuff. But I don't know, man. I feel like the defense has been neglected in this group long enough. Maybe it's time to allocate a little bit of money there. Like Darnell Nurse in Edmonton.
Idea, Francis.
No,
what
but
a great idea.
Darnell Nurse in Edmonton, $9 million, right? Probably not a $9 million defenseman, but at least if he plays 23, 24 minutes a night, gives you something, right?
Yes, and here's another thing that
should hide the money.
That has to be, I think, addressed on that. And this is a much bigger picture conversation that is not what people want to hear between now and 3 p.m. on Friday. This team has not drafted and developed defensemen. Darnell Nurse, drafted, developed. Look at what Bouchard has become here. Those are 2 guys they picked in the top 10 defensemen, one on the left side, one on the right side. Both OHL guys. They allowed to grow. One of them actually was a Sioux Greyhound, funnily enough. And look what they've become. In-house with the Leafs, you've got Morgan Riley, who is in-house, and Timothy Liljegren, and I'm not sure what his future looks like here. And to my knowledge, and I don't know their whole system top to bottom, but to my knowledge, there is not a defenseman knocking on the door with the Marlies or the Canadian Hockey League or playing in Europe. And that again is an issue that the whole organization has to address. And it gets back to the overarching commentary that I have supplied here for the last few weeks is it's always about a quick fix. It's always about trade this, trade that, go for this, get that guy, rental. And this organization's been doing it for a long time. And what happens is when you trade this guy, trade that guy, trade this pick, trade that pick, you're all generally back in the same spot year after year. It's like, what else are you going to do here?
And trade this pick, trade that pick ends up to just watching Sean Dursey and players like that on other teams.
Yes, exactly. And the young guys that move on and again, like at some point, maybe they got it with Wall. It's long overdue.
Yeah.
It's been effectively 30 years since Potvin. Reimer's had a good career. He's had a long career. They drafted him. They obviously drafted Rask, but we know what happened there. But Joseph Wall has the potential to grow into an everyday goaltender here that they drafted, they developed, and they allowed to flourish as a Leaf. In terms of defensemen, over the last 25 years, guys that really made it and really popped, it's basically Morgan Rielly and Thomas Kaberle. Like, that's pretty much it in terms of
like Jake Gardner wasn't drafted by the Leafs. He was an Anaheim pick. Like, he was, I guess you could call him homegrown, maybe.
Yeah, they certainly nurture. And again, I'm not. No,
but
it's not even.
We don't have to go through the whole thing.
But
like,
it all comes up.
An audit.
Yes. But it's all a part of this weekly conversation.
Yeah.
We're in this
guys, I
bubble
do
right
think
now.
we just went down a bit of a trail here that got a little off track. If we could sum it up,
I'm just saying.
Let's just say the Leafs stunk the joint out last night, and they got an opportunity to respond tomorrow night. We got into a depth
We're
chart.
in deep, man.
We went into an organizational depth chart.
You know what
draft picks.
We got any Topi Niemela takes?
We turned into a live Reddit forum right there. That's what
we honestly turned into three guys that are Slavs that live in their parents' basement that do a podcast. That's what we just did right there.
Hey, listen.
We got too far. We got carried away.
It's fine. We went all in. We went all in.
Right?
We went all in on a conversation that I think needs to be had because it's not just about.
Hey, I'll say one thing. If you're going to go all in, then I'm going to go all in.
You're
and
coming
that's all
in?
there is to it.
We're all going in together. You coming with us, Frankie? We're all going.
Dude, I don't think a lot of people know what all in means.
No, but
I'll go all in with you.
Shut up, dude. We're not doing it, man. We'll do it on this show, but we're not talking about all in anymore.
Okay, all right, that's fine. But yeah, listen, it's a one-off. What happened last night with that loss means you're in a tough position now to catch the Bruins. That was a part of the conversation yesterday. There was a dream that was kind of coming alive, like, hey, you beat the Bruins twice this weekend, Reg. You're right behind them. Now, that dream, it didn't die last night, but it becomes mandatory. You have to beat them in regulation on Thursday. You have to, in order for you to even have a chance. But the likelihood is it's going to be Boston, Florida, chasing that top seed. Florida went into the Garden last night and beat the Rangers. And again, down in New York, I would guess they're not saying, well, what's wrong with the Rangers now? What are we going to do about the Rangers? Because look at Florida. Florida's a good team. Boston's a good team. New York's a good team. The Leafs are a good team.
At the end of the day, it's one game in a regular season. And even if you go into a playoff series, the Leafs beat Boston, game one. Okay, does that mean they won the series? No, they've done that before.
No
They've won 3 games in a series before, and they haven't been able to win that series. So I think the big test, if you want to call it that, how did they respond on Thursday? Like, you played them already this week. You're going to be playing a back-to-back. Like, they're playing tonight. There's no excuses with the schedule. Go in there and give them a good game and beat them and show that you can do it going into the playoffs, because it looks like that's probably going to be the first round.
Yeah, it very well could be, and that's going to come up and confirm or deny. We've got a little confirm or deny we're going to get to this hour. We got Mike Johnson coming up just after 5 o'clock. Owen Power will join us of the Buffalo Sabres. He will join us later this afternoon, and the news broke after the show last night. Scotty Barnes did, in fact, have surgery, so that's it for Scotty. And that's the right play. You don't want anything lingering into the offseason. You don't want any issues, certainly that would carry over to next season. But, the Raptors, talk about a dream being alive. They were kind of chasing that 10 seed for a bit. They got New Orleans in town tonight. It's going to be a tough game. FanDuel's got them as a pretty big dog. But life without Scotty, we'll see what comes of it. So Jack Armstrong will join us in a couple of hours. We'll get Jack's take on Scotty's injury, the surgery, his season. Kelly Olynyk signing that 2-year extension yesterday, what he makes of what we have in store tonight, again, with the New Orleans Pelicans in town. So that more still to come. Frankie Corrado's in here with the O-Dog Jeff O'Neill. I'm Bryan Hayes. OverDrive continues, TSN 1050 and on TSN 4.
I can neither confirm or deny that this is in fact a segment.
Boston trades Andrew Raycroft to Toronto in exchange for the rights to Tuukka Rask.
It's been my honor and a privilege to serve as the general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs Hockey Club.
It's time for Confirm or Deny.
Do you regret giving all those gentlemen the no trades or no movement clauses?
Well, I can either confirm or deny that.
I can't confirm or deny.
All right, Confirm or Deny, brought to you by Summit Ford and South Lake Ford Lincoln, where there are no trade deadlines. They're all in on that. Everyone's all in. They'll take anything. They'll take anything on trade and save you, the HST. Visit summitford.com or southlakeford.com. Love that. Love that. No trade deadlines up there. Whenever you're ready. All right, Confirm or Deny. You guys know the way this works. Statements are made. We go around the table. We either confirm them or we deny them. Very simple stuff. Are you guys ready?
Yep.
Yes.
Confirm or deny. Of all the potential outcomes, Leafs in the first round, who they could play, the Bruins would be the best matchup for the Maple Leafs.
The best. I need it like I've never done this.
Basically,
on this
it's either Florida, Rangers, or Bruins. I mean,
I know, but what is? I need a more kind of explained definition of the best.
Best chance to beat. Best chance to beat. Rangers, Panthers, Bruins. The statement is
I'll
Bruins.
take the Rangers all day long.
Okay, so you're going to deny this.
I'm going to deny it. I'm like, get out of this division and maybe see what happens. It's maybe the Rangers kind of is just a better matchup, and it's not the Demons of Boston or the Florida Panthers or the Tampa Bay Lightning. But maybe it's just a new ball of hell that can just be wound up and created. Who knows? But I will deny this 100,000,000%. There's actually no other answer. And if you guys don't, you're wrong.
There's not, Frankie.
I was going to confirm it just because you denied it. The reason why, don't you think they're just due against the Bruins? Like, isn't it that kind of like slaying the dragon mentality where they did it against Tampa?
Francis. How many times have you said, don't you think they're just due?
Like too many, probably. But like, I don't know, like Boston isn't what they were. New York is probably like New York is not what Florida is. But I still think like going up against the Bruins outside of they have really good goaltending and Pastrnak is a huge issue. I think there is some holes there that they could be able to exploit.
Yeah, I confirm it as well. Swayman's really good. I mean, that it has to be determined. Like, not that people aren't aware of this, but you watched it last night. His numbers are very good. What's wild is he may not even make the American team in a year. That's how good the Americans are. If Hellebuck, Demko, and Ottinger are on before him, Swayman may be the fourth guy. Can we get him Canadian citizenship? Like, he'd be a lock starter for Canada. But Swayman's really good. I love their defense, specifically McAvoy, Carlo on the right side. We always talk about that. Grzelcyk and McAvoy are a really good pair. But I think it's Bruins as well. Zacha looked good. Charlie Coyle's had a career year. But if Austin Matthews cannot expose the middle of the ice, he's never going to. He's never going to. And I know the Rangers aren't chock full of Hall of Famers, but they have a couple of guys up the middle there. Zibanejad, Trocheck, and others. Florida, we know. Look at what Barkov did last night. It was freakish. I want nothing to do with Florida the way they're playing right now. I think it's the Bruins, and that's not saying it's a guarantee. But the Bruins, they probably have some scar tissue too, man. That loss in the playoffs last year, that can have a mental hold on you.
Yeah. Part of me says, you know what, Hayes, give me Florida. It's like, just see what you got. They're by far the best team in the league. I think right now they would be heavy favorites to win the Stanley Cup. Mm-hmm. And if Bobrovsky can kind of do his thing, I don't know how you're going to stop that team and beat them 4 times in a 7-game series. So just get it out of the way and see what you got.
You know what's interesting about Florida, too? Like, Hayes, you just kind of did the rundown on Boston. A lot of name value there. Where's the big name value on the back end for Florida? Like, Montour had a great year last year. Like, guys like Gus Forsling. Like, I don't know. Like, they're just really disciplined in the way they play as a team, and they have that pack mentality where it's like you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us, and they can play it any which way you want.
Yeah, I mean, they learned their lesson against Tampa a couple of years ago, and we heard lesson again last night. I'm pleading with John Tavares, like, exclude that from your vocabulary.
Crap,
you've got to get it out, John. Like, you do yourself a favor and never use that word ever again. Like, the idea that last night was a lesson is just the worst thing anyone could possibly hear if you're a Leaf fan. But you guys remember that. They got through that first round. They finally won a round, and then they got Tampa just laid a beating on them. They got swept. They got embarrassed. And then they made the Tkachuk deal. They brought in Bennett. And that's what they are. Like last night, who was it that hit him? Was it Fox that hit Tkachuk last night? And Bennett went after him.
Five guys went after him.
Dude,
guys,
imagine
basically.
trading
It's
for
just like-
Sam Bennett. Like, imagine trading
For like
that.
a second-round pick.
What a trade. Are you kidding me?
I know.
Like, that one flies under the radar a lot.
That wasn't a first-round pick.
No.
That was Calgary's like,
Calgary
we
was
don't
done
see
with
it.
him.
We're
man.
done
Yeah,
with
they
him.
were like, we got to
done
get
with
rid of
him.
him. We got to move off this
Yep.
guy.
Oh, my
and he
God.
wasn't playing well. And
Yep.
now he's just, I don't know. You talk about a playoff performer. Like, there's Matthew Tkachuk out there, but I think if you just had to pick one guy to describe what it takes to succeed in the playoffs, it's the guy on his team, number 9, Sam Bennett.
Dude, how about that one guy, Gadjevich, who plays on the fourth line? He's
Tough
like,
as nails.
He's nails. He's like, yeah, I want a piece of Rempe too. Everyone wants a piece. It's like that kind of mentality from Florida where it's like, yeah, we'll be right in the mix. No
Yep.
problem. Give us the spotlight too.
Yeah, he went right up to Rempe last night and gave him the chest grab.
Yeah, like let's go. Like you're going me too. You think you're gonna
Yeah.
go Reeves, Delorier, Olivier? Like you got to go me too.
Yeah, that's aggressive. The
I love
chest
that.
grab is an aggressive maneuver, and it happened last night at the Garden. And yeah, like Sam Bennett, obviously Domi is not of the same vein, but that's kind of what they need to be hoping for from Max, is that there's an elevation in intensity, in physicality, in I'm going to scrum, I'm going to fight, I'm going to hit. Like Bennett is really tough. He is a legit sneaky,
he'll
like
knock you
pound
out.
for pound tough dude.
It's
in this
hard.
league.
Just throws
hard.
haymakers. He looks like a little scrawny guy. He hits like a truck, and he will knock you flat out cold.
Yes.
Out cold.
He will, but and offensively, he's got offense to his game, but it's not outrageous. It's not like game breaker type stuff.
Yeah.
But
Then they got this guy, the Lamborghini. You see this guy?
yeah, on the fourth line though,
He's a
with the
local guy.
short hair or long
And dude,
hair.
he's in the middle of everything.
Every
He's the
s-
Lamborghini, they call him.
I love that guy though. He plays for keeps, man.
Yeah.
He's the kind of guy.
All those guys do, and guess
Yeah.
why that is? One transaction.
Matthew Tkachuk.
That's right.
Yeah.
They brought that guy in there. Did you ever hear them talk about the Florida Panthers saying they play for keeps when Huberdeau was there? Did you ever say that?
No.
Very different.
And
Very
that was, I mean, that was also a message to everyone that it's not a country club. I don't care if he's been here that long. I don't care what Huberdeau's asking for. He's out. We're moving on. And we just won the President's Trophy, and he had 115 points, and he's out. And guess what? It's one of the great trades in NHL history.
They went from
Like
playing.
it legitimately will become one of the great trades in NHL history.
And I would bet you a lot of money if Billy Zito, before the trade happened, went around the boardroom and said, "Who's in favor of this?" I bet you a lot of guys didn't put their hand up.
Yeah.
And he pulled the trigger on it.
Bold
because
move.
of how good Huberdeau was with Barkov and the success they had. I would bet money, a lot of it, that not a lot of people put their hand up and said Billy pulled the trigger on that.
Fair enough. They went from playing nice hockey to mean hockey.
Yeah.
Oh,
it flipped the switch.
interesting,
You're right,
Francis.
though, man. Like that, they were a South Beach crew that was dancing and dangling. And
Saucer passes across the
yeah,
ice.
man.
Not
And-
anymore, man. Well, there's a little bit of that, but they probably meet you with a little snarl.
Well, you
afterwards.
have to have talent. Like that Barkov assist last night. That's an all-world play. Like that is, and he's a gentleman on the ice. Barkov's not dropping his gloves.
Well, Hayes, that's the combination. You see the Barkov play, you see the goals and stuff, Reinhardt, but you also see 5 guys wanting to punch Fox in the face when he hit Tkachuk.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's both. It's just both. You got to have the talent, and there's an example of it, that incredible assist, but you got to have the other stuff too. It's like a combination.
It's
Anybody
exactly
that thought you could, or that this thinks a word? Jesus, I just had an absolute brain melting.
Okay,
But anybody
continue.
that
You're
thinks
good.
that you could just win with one or the other, it's got to be a blend, man. And the Panthers are a great example of it.
Yeah, they are. They are.
All right, what do we got? We got to
All right,
move on.
Moving on here. We're all in. We're all in. I love that. It's a good take. You finished it, which was great. All right. Confirm or deny. The trade deadline is irrelevant in Toronto if Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner are not the 2 best players in every playoff series. Confirm or deny.
The playoffs are irrelevant.
Now,
in
the trade deadline is irrelevant. There's all this focus on deadline. What are they going to do? Depth. Who's going to play with who? Confirm or deny. It's all irrelevant unless Matthews and Marner are absolute rock stars.
Can I start this one?
Go ahead.
It's a confirm. It's absolutely a confirm, because you can even get past one series where these guys take their game to another level, regardless of what you think the D-core may not have or what you might not have lower in the lineup. These guys are that good, and they can do it for one playoff series, let's say. Probably not sustainable to go deep into the playoffs at that point, but if these guys are the best players in the series, I think that gets you at least one series.
I totally confirm this, and I'm 100% in. You've mentioned it about a month ago, Hayes, where we were doing our usual thing of talking about things like this, and you were like, well, what about the best players just being better and dominating playoff series? How about that to like win? I think we were talking about different ways to win and what's happened in the past, and you were like, they've never elevated. Like last night was an example of Pasternak in a game where he just elevated and said, I'm going to take control of this game, and he did it. They haven't done that yet. And you could see it was like a big boy game last night. And it's like the star players got to get the middle of their blade on the ice and just like dig in, because it's just like fancy and the tiptoe of their hockey sticks bouncing around and looking for the puck, where it's like you look at like a guy like Kachuk, Sam Bennett, Sidney Crosby, like they got that whole blade on the ice, man, and they're like digging and they hold on to the puck, where it's just there's no rinky-dink business out there. And it's like, how many times do you want to see that where you're like, that doesn't fly? How do you not know that doesn't fly? Yeah. But like I said, last night was a one-off. They stunk, but they're going to be better tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm confirming it as well. And that's been a part of my frustration with, I understand the focus on everything else, and I understand the importance of it all, and you got to fill out a roster, and it's a team sport, and these guys can only play like 25 minutes. So in reg, you got 35 minutes where they're not on the ice. So there's a lot of detail and nuance and layering that goes into any success you have in hockey. But the idea that if they don't go all in, it's at, the disservice of these two, to me, is a complete cop-out. Like the idea that there's so much focus on, who's going to be on the third pair for 14 minutes is a cop-out. And these are the guys. Like Matthews and Marner, it's lead by example. You want everyone else to play above what they're expected to? You have to do that first. You want Simone Benoit to block that shot with his face? You better be willing to do it. And that hasn't happened in 7 years in the past. And I think, if history repeats itself, all of this kind of stuff, we'll look back on it in mid-May, April, May, end of May, and say, why were we even yelling and screaming about Zach Bogosian as an acquisition? Right. Or why were we talking about, can Pontus Holmberg be? Because it'll all be irrelevant if Matthews and Marner are asleep in a playoff round or blend into the playoffs. You can't win like that. Yeah, you can't win like that. And it's no different in Edmonton. It's no different in Boston. It's no different in Florida. It'll be Kachuk and Barkov and Verhaeghe. Yes, Lombard will factor in, and Nick Cousins will fit in. Yeah, Lamborghini. But ultimately, why did Florida go where they went last year? Bobrovsky was unbelievable, and Kachuk put on like a 2-month run that was absurd. Yes. And Verhaeghe and Barkov got better and better and better, and then it allowed everyone else to filter in. You're like, man, that guy's pretty good on the third line.
That's what you need on a long run. You need people to buy other people time, whether it be goaltenders, a third line. I went to the finals, and Rod Brindamore, Eric Cole, and Bates Battaglia, they basically won us the Montreal series. They were so dominant, and it was like, if they didn't do that, then we're just done. Montreal beats us, and it's game over. We don't get to Toronto, and then other people step up. You get some heroes, some goaltending. That's what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, as much as we talk about it, I don't want to contradict our point earlier. As much as it's about the big boys that got to do it the majority of the times, like, you need other contributions too.
Of course.
Yeah, but that's why you have these guys, man. That's why you pay these guys so much money. Because if you just wanted regular guys that you could pay $6 million a year that were good, not great, you'd have them. But you got these guys. Like, that's why you pay them all this money, because they're game breakers and they can win you a series if they're playing at the level that you know they can play at.
All right, confirm, deny, continuing. I'm reading my own work here, and I'm realizing I'm jamming up Joe from the Bridge really badly, because I did the talk to text, and it's completely, it's awful. Like it's almost impossible
you're writing
to read.
sometimes because I have to deal with some of your papers sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's like you're just crushed on liquor or something when you're writing it.
I know. I'm reading.
It's like
these.
it's like a little kid that's just thinking and writing at the same time with all kinds of errors.
Yeah,
And
I know.
and JP have had a few chuckles over the years.
I know. I try, because I try to act it out and read it out, and then I'll do the talk to text, and the talk to text can really jam you because it doesn't keep up.
Ta-ha.
Yeah.
To-he.
I know. There's,
the.
and I'm reading that right now. I'm like, this doesn't even make sense. But Joe from the Bridge, bear with me here. All right, confirm or deny? The Maple Leafs need to find out who their defined number one goalie is well before Game 1 of the playoffs.
I'm going to deny that.
Denying that.
Deny that. Yeah. What does it matter if you have your number one goaltender today? That's great. You could proclaim someone's your number one guy. Take your pick. It's going to be Joseph Woll. What if he's not playing well come April? You've already declared that guy your number one guy. That's what Boston did last year with Linus Ullmark. And they didn't want to pull the trigger and go to Swayman. Where did that get them? They lost in the first round. So I just think, first day of the playoffs, you're going to know who your guy is. But you also have to understand that there's a little feel to it. Like if that guy's hurt or he's banged up or he's not playing well, maybe you have another guy you can go to that can help you out.
Oh? Were you listening or not listening?
Did he freeze?
I already answered the question, did I not?
No, Frankie went first. Are you okay?
Were you talking at the same time?
Like, did you take your meds this morning? What are we doing? Are we?
I have no
I can
idea
neither
what you're
confirm or
talking
deny that.
All right, let me say the question. Am I wrong here, Frankie Doogie? Am I losing my mind?
I don't recall.
I
hearing
thought
he
I
didn't say a
answered
word.
first and he went second.
No,
Am
you
I
have-
having a brain malfunction
You have not
right
said
now?
a word about this most recent one. You got on me about my talk to text.
Oh,
and you made
I thought
comments
that
on
was my...
No,
all right,
that was
give
not a
it to me
confirm or
right.
deny.
All right, give it to me again.
Confirm or deny was not that my talk to text is a disaster. That you confirmed. But that was not, in fact, it. So, dead air. Try to take that out of the podcast if you can. The Maple Leafs need to find out and declare who their true number one goalie is well before the playoffs start.
I honestly don't know. Like, you got to give an answer, but how are they going to find that out the way it's going right now? It seems like it's flip-flopping every night.
Mm-hmm.
But I will confirm it. But how they're going to get to that, Hayes, is the magical...
Right.
Like, Joseph Woll, I thought, okay, kid, like, you're going to go in there. And although Pasternak made some good plays down low, there's some of these in-tight ones where he's got to find a way to squeeze it and just keep it out. Obviously, it wasn't his best night, but... I don't know. There's times I look at him, like there was early on, he made a blocker save or a glove save, and I'm like, that kid looks like a stud in net. Mm-hmm. And then it kind of just goes away at different times of the game, and I don't know if I 100% trust it. But and then you got Samsonov, where all you can think about is he going to revert back to that other nonsense at the beginning of this, or whatever that was in November or December? It's like, if that pops up, they're screwed. If Woll doesn't get it together, they're kind of screwed. I'm confirming it, but how you're going to get to the guy is where I'm confused.
Yeah, I'm confirming it as well. And the way you get to it is the guy defines it for you. I mean, ultimately, that's what I'm driving at here. Is I think if you get to game 82 and you're like, I don't know who our guy is, then you don't have a guy. Like, that's nerve-wracking. And the way they get there is one of these two guys. And I'm not saying it's by the end of this week, but I think with 4 or 5 games left, you want to have a pretty good feel on that guy's got mojo, that guy's got confidence, our team believes in that guy, and it's on the goalies to do that. Sheldon Keefe making that proclamation that doesn't mean anything, which is, I think, the point you're making, Frankie. Like, if you walk in the room and he goes today, hey, guys, Joseph Woll starts, they're like, what does that even mean?
Yeah,
I could change. What if he plays poorly between now and then? What if we don't believe it? But I think I'd confirm it because I guess it's a challenge to these two goalies, Woll and Samsonov, one of them to say and to prove it with their play, like, I'm the man. Because it's a great opportunity for both guys. Like, one of these guys is going to get a start game 1 and have a chance to go on a magical run and basically write or rewrite their careers. Like, Ilya Samsonov can completely just erase what happened earlier in the year.
Could be one of the best goalie stories of all time.
Yeah.
Think about that. Like, waivers, clears waivers, goes down to the minors, and then if he goes on a big playoff run, like, when was the last time that happened to a goalie?
That's the other thing that scares me about both of those guys. It's like, playing well is one thing, but guess what the second thing after that is? health. Like,
yes.
Is that guy going to stay healthy for a playoff series and not like I worry every time there's a collision in front of the net. I'm like, is that guy going to get up and just put his mask on and be normal, or is he coming out of the game?
It's concerning. I think it's an epidemic in the game right now in general. There's a lot of guys.
They just skate off and they're gone.
Yeah,
they're just gone for months at a time.
See you later.
I just had that. That's the most frightening experience.
Yep.
Because when I feel like I've given my answer first, there are some times when I don't care what you guys say, and I'll go into a personal space of Mars.
Right.
So when you threw out, I'm like, I don't know what this guy's
I go to. They can help you out.
Yeah. Is this it? Oh.
There.
Were you listening or not? Yeah. So you got to give me a heads up
horrifying.
there, because I didn't even realize that's how it sounded. Because when I'm in the moment, I'm like, are we having a technical issue here?
I thought it froze.
Is someone frozen? Is something malfunctioning?
If there was a
Did we go
zero
off
in on
the
my
air?
face, I was just like, usually you can kind of in this business like work your way out of it. I'm like, I wanted to say I don't know what you're talking about. I already answered the question.
How did it
then that
feel? Did you get like furnace face going when he said, "Oh"?
Yeah, I did, because I'm like, I just usually I don't know. I could come up with something, but I was like, I already answered this, so why are you coming back to me?
Right. Hey, it happens to the best of us. It's all good. I think you landed it. I think we got it back on the rails, and that was a pretty good segment.
Yeah.
And we've got Confirm or Deny After Dark. We got more we can scatter in throughout the afternoon.
We could probably squeeze one more in after the break.
I think we can. And we got a Chris Johnston tweet and report that I think most of us are going to find very intriguing. We're going to read that. Confirm or Deny was brought to you by Summit Ford and South Lake Ford Lincoln, where there are no trade deadlines. They'll take anything on trade and save you the HST. Visit summitford.com or southlakeford.com. So we'll scatter in some more Confirm or Deny throughout the afternoon. And CJ with a bombshell that could make this week very intriguing. We'll read that off. We'll get into it next.
Twice in the last month, I've just kind of tossed out some congrats to pro athletes because I figured I was once a part of the club. I sent the Bringer of Rain just a DM saying, Bringer of Rain, what a career. You played with balls, man, and your stop in Toronto was incredible. Mm-hmm. You wrote back. I really appreciate that, Jeff. Thank you, Bringer of Rain.
You're kidding me, man. I'm not buying it. Pixar didn't happen. You can set it in the group chat. You don't have to post it online, but
I'll just send it to you directly.
All
Do
right.
you honestly think that I would make that up for like I would need those types of things in my life to have like.
Well, I don't know why you put yourself out there, because you're asking for trouble. You're asking for a block or someone just to not respond.
Dude, once you see the uniform, there's a different vibe amongst pro athletes, because you see the check and then you see the profile pic and it's like, we are brothers.
Yeah.
So I can write this guy back.
Okay. All right. Well, Frankie, do you want to do the same? Do you want to send the Bringer of Rain?
No, don't
I'm not
try
gonna
to
do it.
Now he's going to, now the Bringer of Rain's
No,
going
no.
to write me back and say, keep your goon buddies away.
No, I'm not going to do it. I will say, though, there's something about like keeping your Twitter profile picture to you playing hockey that still makes you feel like you're one of the boys, like you're an athlete. Like, I don't want to change it to like me in a suit with a microphone, because then I'm just a guy in a suit with a microphone. I'm a media guy. But if it's me in a jersey, if we got a little something there.
Okay.
Hey,
it's a little,
we're in the hockey
signal.
business. We're in hockey business.
Yes.
You got to have the profile pic of you playing hockey.
All right. Well, let's see how far you can go with this.
Dude, I'm not writing him back again.
No, you don't have to write Bringer of Rain. You don't have to ask him. But let's see if you can go even further up the ladder, who you can send a DM to. Why don't you send a DM to Tiger and say, I heard you almost had an albatross at Seminole on Monday. Love seeing you, Big Cat. All the best at the players.
Have a look if he has the envelope thing where you can do it, and I'll do it right now.
All right. You're gonna send. You're gonna slide into Tiger's DMs?
Tiger has an envelope,
Dude,
man.
this is like the chain of DMs. How far up can you go?
Right.
I got Nikki Taylor. I went to the Bringer of Rain. I'll send a DM
Tiger?
to Eldrick and say, my guy, what's up?
I got a feeling Eldrick. I think he's got filters.
I think that's a level where he flushes
doesn't have
it and
it.
gives you the bird emoji.
Yeah, I think if you look like you're getting flushed. I think there might be like a separate DM avenue for
I
Eldrick.
see where you're going with that.
There's the possibility that he says, I'd be willing to engage with that conversation.
There's a direct line.
Yes, I think there might be a direct line. But
You think he has underground tunnel DMs
yes.
where they get filtered through a certain funnel and right up?
I
and,
think
and
we're-
like it pops up on his
Yes.
home screen.
It's one of those things. If you know, you know.
Yeah. I
Right?
think we're talking El Chapo levels.
Yes. He has a
tunnels.
motorbike in a tunnel that carries the DM right to his front door.
That El Chapo escape is still so bonkers, man.
Yeah.
Like that guy just disappeared like Andy
Yeah.
Dufresne. And you're like, that's the most wanted man
The
on earth.
security guy's looking at him and he just magically falls in the toilet and he's gone forever.
Yeah.
It's like, you didn't see that coming, man?
You didn't see El Chapo finding a way to get out of here. Maybe you want to look into that. But yeah, El Chapo levels of tunnels.
Dude,
I
during
think
the
for
break,
DMs for Tiger.
during the break, we're gonna find like a legit celebrity athlete with an envelope and see if
right.
O-Dog can
It's
slide
a
Let's
it.
see how
segment.
high we can
What
go.
level of DM is it?
All right.
What level of DM is it?
All right, man. I love it. Josh Donaldson with a response. I like that. All right, Chris Johnston. We'll get to that at 5 p.m., okay? We will tweet out. We will get to what he tweeted out. There's a lot going on in the NHL right now. The trade deadline is rapidly approaching. MJ coming up in the next hour. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.